Get ready for a mess, because this is MMR Best in Slot. Oh, it's gonna be funny. Right, this is going to be quite controversial just because people seem to have this weird thing with MMR builds that there are a variety of things that actually make up a good MMR build, when in fact there's just two. These two, in fact, Chain Killer and Pristine Example. You don't actually necessarily need Chain Killer. You can go with a rowdy piece with Headhunter. In effect, it is just the talents, Headhunter and Focus. Now, you can go with other pieces and put Headhunter on. The general difference really being is you can get a higher damage output, but it will take longer to stack. Whereas with Chain Killer, it's quicker to stack, and the overall difference would be like a million damage. And if you're one-shotting everything anyway, an extra million damage is null and void. However, with Pristine Example, with Perfect Focus, where it's total weapon damage, which in itself is a multiplier, Pristine Example does really beat out pretty much every other option with Focus on. So in terms of focus, Pristine Example is your best choice. With Chain Killer is generally the better option, but there are other options that are just as viable depending on how you wish or want to play. And as long as you have one of these pieces involved, you kind of get results that look like this. The top build is the meta, or best in slot. The bottom build is just Chain Killer with 5-piece improvised. There's a grand total of 2 million damage difference between them. Best in slot is hitting for 13.8 mil per shot, where an improvised build is hitting for an 11.8 mil. In the grand scheme of things, that's going to make no difference. That's more than enough for you to build Headhunter stacks off and just start one-shotting pretty much everything in the game. So the overall build really doesn't actually matter as long as you have Chain Killer or Pristine Example. Which does kind of mean I can do the absolute cop-out of this and go, there's your best in slot build. Nemesis, because it's the highest damage MMR in the game, and Chain Killer, problem solved. However, I'm not going to do that. Now, this has actually taken me quite a while to figure out and math out, and I still haven't figured out Headhunter. Hutchler, hurry up. Now, throughout all my testing, I figured out that there's effectively two ways to actually play MMR. One's DPS, which is very akin to rifle play, and the other would be Headhunter. So essentially you've got Pristine Example or Chain Killer, for argument's sake. Now we're going to start off with the DPS build. It is the build I'm running in the background footage, and yeah. Now this build actually gets some hilarious stats. It gets 160% weapon damage without expertise, 301 headshot, 60% crit chance, 117 critical hit damage, and 49.5% amp. 4-piece aces, Pristine Example, a Seska backpack with opportunistic, and Dread Edict. When it comes to DPS on MMR, Dread Edict is literally God. It is so much more damage than any other MMR. It's hilarious to a point of where it's genuinely not funny. Now, this build is directly comparable to rifle builds, and it plays very similar to a rifle build. However, there's a lot of build up and stacking to it. You have to stack Dread Edict, Pristine Example, as well as aces to get your maximum output. However, this hopefully shouldn't turn you too far off the build. In a previous video where I did best in slot for rifles, the highest we really got, aside from a very niche build that uses Ravenous and Strikers, which was able to hit like 26 mil. So using the best in slot rifles, we got to like 15 mil. This was a high-end focus build with the M1A CQB with Rifleman fully procced. This build, however, hits anywhere between 12.5 mil and 17.2 mil in DPS, depending on the stage in which your buffs are active. Yeah, it's just a little bit dumb. Now, before we go any further, I want to highlight something else because I see a lot of people ranting and raving over the new Hotshot. So, just have a quick look. Hotshot gives 30% MMR damage, 30% weapon handling, and 30% headshot. And then the next part of the talent, the 4-piece, blah-de-blah-de-blah. In short, it gives 20% on headshot, 10% armor or up to 50% bonus armor, and then it refills the magazine. Dread Edict. Lots of writing. In short though, this is 40% weapon damage, 100% headshot damage, bonus armor, and refilling the magazine. What? Now, in case you're not picking up what I'm putting down, this is what they give you. Hotshot Dread Edict. In direct comparison. What one do you actually think is statistically more powerful? And yet, if you ask most people that play MMR, they'll tell you that Hotshot is really good and Dread Edict is really bad. Despite the fact that by itself, Dread Edict outperforms Hotshot by 77.2%. And Dread Edict doesn't penalise you for missing where Hotshot does. Yeah. Dread Edict also applies more survivability. It can literally double your armour, where Hotshot can't. Anyway, enough of comparing Hotshot to Dread Edict, the failed MMR, but oh my god, Hotshot's really good. Anyway, moving on to the one-shot MMR, 3-piece Hotshot, the gift, chain killer, Fox's Prayer. You don't have to use the gift, just you can either use Habsburg, anything that gives 15% headshot, so Providence or Habsburg, weapon handling, headshot, and then you want Vigilance. You don't have to go with Vigilance, Concussion, Unstoppable Force, anything that gives a total weapon damage bonus will help you here. Now, a lot of you at this point are going, why not 4-piece? Well, to put it simply, the 4-piece is actually the weakest part of Hotshot. Like, it's incredibly weak. Aces and 8s 4-piece bonus is on average 10% more powerful. Hotshot is, aside from the 2 and 3-piece bonuses, pretty damn bad. And especially now that the bug between Headhunter and Determined is getting fixed, not nerfed. Anyone that has played the PTS knew that that's not how that combination of talents interacted. So it is a bug, it's not getting nerfed, it's absolutely getting fixed. At this point now, the 4-piece Hotshot is basically dead, because in order to actually get anything from it, you need to be 100% accurate 100% of the time. Which I'm not going to say is impossible, but it is beyond ridiculously difficult, and unless you're on a god tier streak or you are just a god tier player, it isn't happening. So we've replaced the 4-piece Hotshot with Fox's Prayer. So in terms of damage, again without calculating Headhunter into it, we get this. And yeah, 13.8 mil. Some of you might recognise that number. Now, in case you're wondering why I said 90%, to put this simply, I also calculated if you were able to be 100% accurate with 4-piece Hotshot, how much extra would it give you? So for the price of being absolutely 100% on point 100% of the time, playing sweaty, you get a grand total of 10% increase in damage, which is also 100% not worth it, because you're not going to be able to keep that buff up, and in essence it only really applies every other shot. So no 4-piece Hotshot is not the way to go. And if we are by some miracle able to change the 3rd attribute on some of these weapons, changing the crit chance attribute on Nemesis to damage the targets out of cover, the overall damage difference is a grand total of 1.66%. So for effectively 1.5% more damage, you would have to be 100% accurate. Again, if it wasn't worth it at 10%, it's not going to be worth it at 1.5%. So yeah, 4-piece Hotshot, not worth it. 3-piece with Foxes, a decent backpack, and then Chain Killer, absolutely worth it. Now obviously, if you're not a fan of Nemesis on this build, White Death or Mantis are going to be your next best options. White Death will allow you to put Determined on if you really want. However, that is just about going to do it for this video. There's only really 2 builds in the best in slot, and one's DPS, one's pure headhunter. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.